what's known as a personal biographer. Primarily, I write the stories of folks who just want to capture the critical stories of the family, grandma and grandpa's story, publish it for the family only. But I have done some books that were for larger audiences, and this one about Joe Ann is one.
Sidney Poitier, Ken Burns. You want to talk about that a little
Well,
bit?
I've interviewed a few celebrities. I have not written a book about either of them, but when I was a writer for Guilford College magazine in Greensboro, Guilford College brought very interesting folks to town. They brought Ken Burns, and I was privileged to interview him, and they brought Sidney Poitier, and I was very privileged to sit with Mr. Poitier and have a 2-hour interview with him.
But in chapter 1, there is something very beautiful that you wrote.
This is the moment that her dad brought her to a relative's house. And the characters are Deloach and Ora May are the couple whom her dad is now bringing her to their doorstep. And her dad is Dyke. Deloach's marriage to Ora May Tanner was fruitful in love, but not in progeny. He was pondering that very thing when he heard Dyke Marshall's shiny late model car pull into the yard, alarming the chickens. The old front door of the hand-hewn farmhouse creaked as Deloach opened it. He was mildly surprised to see a little family heading for him, only slowly recognizing the man who had married Lacey Lee, his wife's niece, who was 10 years younger than Dyke. So these are the little babies that have lived with all that trouble, he thought to himself. The stories of Dyke and Lacey Lee Lawrence's fighting had rippled through the family for years. "Can you help us out?" Dyke asked, holding the baby outstretched from his new suit. The children's clothes were dingy and torn. "Just for a little while," he said, breaking into a grin when Deloach reached out for baby Joe Ann, "till we get back on our feet." Childless Ora May appeared at the door and in a single gesture drew that baby to her bosom. After all those years of wondering why God hadn't seen fit to give her a child, she knew exactly what this moment meant. She knew that taking these kids that day might mean keeping them forever. She knew that she would be cutting cotton flour sacks to hand-stitch into clothes, that in addition to farm chores, she would be making many trips to the yard and back, hauling well water inside for drinking, cooking, and cleaning. And she knew she would have taken those children in even if they hadn't shared the same blood.
Wow.
As the 2 older children looked up from the doorway, the chilly winter air suddenly seemed to warm, and Deloach and Ora May embraced their first foster children, welcoming them into their hearts and hearts.
That is such a beautiful, beautiful piece.